Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade the Chain crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Wednesday, September 27th. The total crypto market cap sitting at 1.05 trillion. Bitcoin sentiment leaning a little bullish, showing the bulls definitely want to lift off of 26K. We'll discuss that in a second. Ethereum sentiment neutral, bullish. Showing that people are really not ready to give up the bullish line of thought after getting crushed this morning. But some interesting things, hottest on Twitter, really bustling today. We've got TRB up 25%, Loom up 12%. Most bullish coins were performing well. Obviously came off the highs a little bit today. TRB found this interesting, exchange inflows of 1% today. We did see a lot of coin margining, so it's up. But since, we did see a lot of inflows, people are quite bearish on it. So I think that's a fascinating thing to see. And then exchange net flows mostly flat, but we did have about $300 million worth of withdrawals yesterday. So some very interesting tidbits there. Top price gainer Go 50% today. And scam coin Luna up 17%. So the scams are winning. Not exactly what you want to see. Usually if the scams are winning, then the majors are losing or will lose. But let's go ahead and break down what's going on. So DXY absolutely just freaking zoomed right up, overbought, doesn't care. This is definitely going to tag 107, maybe this 107.2, which is got this lined out from that high, not the November high, but a high in November. So I think this 108 number is actually going to be a little bit more critical because that was the last spike up before we really cranked down into the February lows. So 107.2 looks to be on the horizon. Would not be shocked if we ended up zooming to 108, but at some point this is gonna return or consolidate. And then maybe risk gets its chance to kind of breathe a sigh of relief. But right now, with this heading higher, equities are getting crushed, and that is not positive. So we did break down. We're actually lower than where I expected at the 42.58 level. So we're under 42.50. Not a good sign. And if you look at where we're at, just kind of on the macro perspective, I'll zoom down a little bit. Let's get rid of the stuff on the bottom, give us more room on the chart. So let's get rid of these and let's look at equity. So, maybe we get some relief at the 42.30 level, but I would expect more or less it's going to do something like this and drop to the 4200 level, which just to kind of zoom out a little bit, coincides with the high from February, which was when we met the DXY low. So this is probably going to head here. And if we kind of think about where DXY is headed, that 107.2 level makes sense, but we could just zoom up to 108, and that may be what drops us down. So I'm not ready to say equities look great until I see DXY really start to sell off. And right now it does look very strong, although it is quite overbought. So, definitely looking for some softening around the 107 level. That's when, you may want to get into longs or at least close your shorts. So equity is not looking good. Last saving grace is at 42.30 level. If that does not hold, 4,200 is in the cards. Now, something I tweeted, told the Trade the Chain community, been talking about for a while is, crypto, relative strength in crypto, quote unquote, typically does not last. We typically end up following equities in some way, shape, or form. So if we're kind of just looking at the hourly chart, I may zoom out to 4 hour as well. But we zoomed up here. We swept the highs from last Sunday and last, not the highs from last week, but right where we had a lot of liquidity resting after the sell-off, mid last week. So we swept that area. We obviously dropped back down. We deviated both the weekly MACD, we deviated, or not the weekly MACD, the weekly VWAP, we deviated the 1 hour estimated 200 moving average. I'm pretty sure we deviated on the 4 hour 200 moving average as well. Yep, 4 hour 200 moving average deviation. Also, rejections here. So really not looking good in the short term, I must say. So where I'm expecting, we also have these lows to contend with where there should be some resting liquidity, but I would say it's more likely than not we end up tagging these lows at bare minimum. Remember, that's the Monday low. So we basically swept the Monday high. I would expect us to end up sweeping this Monday low. And then if this Monday low breaks, I would expect something similar to what we saw earlier today with a drop down to 25.5. Do we zoom right back up, or do we end up consolidating around this level? We'll have to see what happens there. But I would say it's more likely than not that we end up dripping back down there into tomorrow. So we are getting a little bit of a buyback right now. But in the grand scheme of things, if equities continue to seep lower, I would expect the exact same thing for Bitcoin. So where I am invalidated, because we always have to understand where our stops, where's our invalidation. I would say back above the weekly VWAP, and the ideas are invalidated. So this little level right here, where the initial bounce back, if we can get above that, then things look a lot better than they do now. So if you're not, already short, tough to really just start plugging shorts here. But I would say after this big buy candle, this big sell candle, and if we go ahead and I'll go ahead and refresh this, we go ahead and look at the CVDs and the spot and perp deltas. Let's wait for this to load. You saw a lot of spot selling early today. So let's normalize this date a little bit. I hate how long it takes sometimes. So spot's really just been, selling off the whole time. After, we got the rise today, spot immediately started selling off, whereas perps were kind of holding it for a little bit, and then everything crashed. So now we're going to kind of focus on this level. We are seeing a little bit more spot buying, but the interesting thing is even with that spot buying, there's been no real reaction. So if we continue to seep down, that'll basically be a failure. And then whoever's kind of buying that spot will dump it. We have seen, Bitfinex did some massive selling earlier today into that one little boost. And we are seeing some Binance spot pick up. Binance perps are wanting to long here. A little bit of interest from Coinbase, but not a whole lot across the board. So invalidation for shorts is going to be about 26.3 right now. I would expect us to probably hover around here, this level, into the daily close. Just to look at the daily close, this is pretty unattractive. Let me get rid of these lines right here. So as you can see here, I mean, anyone who trades off candles is going to tell you this is one of the ugliest candles that you could possibly get. Swept, pretty much this entire set of candles, tagged the one-day estimated trending moving average, which we deviated over twice, and then got rejected. So if this candle closes beneath the weekly VWAP, which I had lined out, right around that 26.3 level, we are going to drop down here. It's, it's I hate to say it, I hate to be a bear, but that seems like the most likely option after something like that. Could we do one more of that? I mean, yeah, we could. I've seen it happen before. We've had a couple of these, really ugly. There's no real candle exactly like that, but I would say this is kind of close. Probably a lot of people got bearish on that. We swept lower before going higher. So I would say we're going lower, but, do we sweep once more and then drop down? That's a question for the lower time frame, but I would not be confident in buys right here past the weekend, in my opinion. So had this little BTC chart up. If you were watching the show yesterday, we were now lower than where we were yesterday. So this trade is working out. I didn't mean to really call this out, but we were trading up here yesterday, already down 2.5% on that trade. I'm happy and still sitting in it right now. But just because it was sitting there, I'll cover that from yesterday. And then ETH USD, this is what we want. Of course, we're starting on the daily. Let's get rid of these lines. As we can see here, very similar ugly candle compared to Bitcoin. Not looking good, but let's zoom in on the lower time frames and see what we got kicking. Let's normalize this. Okay. So, very similar to Bitcoin, deviated above the VWAP, deviated above the 1 hour estimated trending moving average, also deviated above this resistance at 1620. I mean, it deviated above the resistance at 1600. So also not a good sign, but we still have our Monday range to contend with. Remember, high, low, and then you got mid-range. So it's surviving at the mid-range in value, still obviously under the weekly VWAP. So not looking too promising. What bulls want to see is ETH hold 1580. If it drops below 1580, it's going to tag that 1560 level. And then invalidation for any shorts would probably be above the weekly VWAP. I would probably say above 1600 This is a much better number because it coincides with the top of those, buyback candles right there. Also coincides with the 1 hour estimated change in moving average. So you got a lot more confluence on the ETH chart. So I'd say this is a bit easier to trade. If you are short right now, I'd probably set your stop up here. If we do end up buying back, invalidation for shorts, of course, would be above that level. And then we would target this level as well as the previous highs. And then obviously, if we drop lower, prayers that 1580 holds, and prayers that 1560 holds. And we definitely want, bulls want to see, in my opinion, the ETH daily close above, at least 1600. So, you got about, $12 to contend with, but it's not looking really good in the short term. So by 8 p.m. is when this closes. If this is below 1600, again, just like Bitcoin, maybe you get a buyback candle before going lower, but I'm going to guess that this is probably going to end up heading lower if we close beneath 1600 on ETH. So unfortunately, wish things looked a little bit better, but, let's go over the TTC charts. We're going to pull up Bitcoin really quick to end. Tweet volume is up, but, one of the big issues, in my opinion, is trade volume is down. We're sitting on Wednesday, we're down minus 20% versus average. And we just had a 2% candle up and then a 2% candle back down. Or actually kind of like 1.5 for Bitcoin. So 1.5. But that's insane. So, volume is that low, even with all of this juicy volatility. And that's really not spelling, it's basically showing me that there's not a lot of interest and there's not much tweet volume. Tweet volume isn't much higher with all this activity either. So, and then we'll look at the same thing for Ethereum. Let's actually refresh this. We get some exact data, but trading volume for ETH is up. And that's kind of what also, coincides with, this kind of simpler trading. You have easy confluence here for understanding bull versus bear. Bitcoin is a little bit more difficult because all you've got is that weekly VWAP sitting there. Let's move back to the 1 hour. All you've got is that weekly VWAP sitting there, and then you've got, it's below mid-range, but it's in the middle of the mid-range, or it's in the middle of the lower half. So very weird looking formation here, and ETH obviously is just a little bit better. Let's cover ETH BTC really quick because Monte, one of our analysts at TTC, called this out yesterday. So it did obviously move. When did he call that out? So it was right around this, right around here. And it moved up a full percent before obviously selling off. And so if you are a bull of ETH BTC, let's kind of zoom out a little bit. This obviously not a good candle either. Basically swept into all of this kind of liquidity that's been sitting in this level, or I should probably say this level right here, and then rejected. So if it goes back beneath the 06 level, it'll deviate and it'll head back to these lows. So something to consider there if you're still bullish ETH BTC. I would say it's still got a chance to head higher. I would not count it out yet. But again, you've got confluence with the resistance, you've got the weekly VWAP, and you've got the 1 hour estimated 200 moving average. So if it starts deviating back lower, it'll end up seeping down here if it breaks this confluence of support. So good luck. I won't end it just yet. I am feeling a little bit bearish. I am in shorts. Sol BTC is my main short. I've also got some shorts on Bitcoin and ETH and a few other assets as well. Like LTC has been moving very friendly to my trading strategy. And then OP has been on my list as well because OP did that massive private sale last week. And typically when you do those private placements, they're going to, shorts or they're going to hedge, which means shorts towards the price of whatever the private placement is. And we talked about that on B3, and usually that is about 33%. So, thinking about 50 cents for that. We don't know any of the numbers. This is all conjecture on my part, but based on market benchmarks, I would say about 50 cents. That's a bit of a long-term target for OP, but I will remain short rips. So good luck. Happy trading. See everybody tomorrow.